네, 안녕하세요. All the fans back home, 감사합니다. 네, 보고 싶어요. Actually, I look back on my experience the past 2 years in Korea, and that being my first time coaching, I learned so much. I mean, learning from all the coaches and everyone back there, it actually helped me with the transition back here. I think right now during spring training, my biggest challenge is probably just trying to be familiar with the players. I mean, going over to Korea, I had to learn all the new players that were in the KBO, and then the past 2 years I come back, it seems like there's just a new wave of players here in the MLB. So right now, for me, it's just trying to adjust and trying to learn a lot of these new players. So officially this year with Minnesota, I'll be the catching coach and the first base coach. We're expecting the baby in August. Yeah, mid-August. So during that time, we actually play the Dodgers and the Angels, and we're gonna be back home. So I told her, I was like, hopefully you can kind of time it to where, yeah, we're gonna be back home. So we've told a couple of people already, but we actually found out that the gender, we're gonna have a baby girl. Yeah, so a lot of golf for me, hopefully. Yeah, a lot of golf. Yeah, he actually reached out to me. So I was in fall camp in Korea at the time, and then literally maybe a couple days before I was gonna head back to the States, he reached out and we kind of caught up a little bit, and obviously we'd known each other back in 2016 with Tampa, and from there we just started talking, and he asked if I was interested in the position. So that's kind of how everything came about. But he's been great so far. I mean, I had such a great relationship with him back in 16 with him, and coincidentally he was actually the first base coach then. I believe it was his first year coaching too, as a first base coach. So for me, when I came over in the off season and in spring training, just to kind of talk to him and learn a lot from him about his experience being a first time coach on the field, it helped me out a lot as well. He's the manager, so he's the boss. But no, honestly, he hasn't changed one bit. I mean, he's been great. He's been so laid back, but at the same time so helpful, and just as far as like kind of being direct and helping me be direct with certain situations. So he's been awesome. It was tough. It was tough. Truthfully, even if it was any other kind of position back here, I probably wouldn't have taken it. But it was tough for me to turn down a major league coaching job. That's like, I mean, not too many opportunities like that come up. And I was actually slated to stay for a couple more years until this job, and I was grateful that they allowed me to interview with the Minnesota Twins at the time. But me and my wife, we enjoyed Korea so much. I mean, we have family out there, and everyone treated us so well with that organization as well. And on top of just not only Lotte fans, but just everyone in the KBO as well. Like, you go to different cities, and whether it was like LG fans, Daejeon, anywhere, like it's just everyone just was baseball just so passionate out there. So for me, it was just it was a tough decision to come back. A little bit. It's funny because I always told my parents that the way that they raised me and my brother at the time, I was always kind of, living in the States as a young kid, you kind of see the other cultures. And so me and my brother at a young age, we'd always be like, why are we doing this? You have to understand the proper terms as far as like greeting somebody who's older than you with the respect factor. Just even little things too, like when we'd sit at a table, always making sure, the family and the parents eat first. But then it all made sense when I came to Korea. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciated most about Korea, is just like understanding my Korean culture and coming up through a Korean family. And that was probably the best part. That was probably the best part of living in Korea for 2 years. I think structure. Was the biggest thing. You look back at the KBO, especially with Lotte, we had a lot of coaches that were very willing to be progressive and willing to kind of challenge a lot of different things. And I think that kind of helped me as far as the transition coming over here. So I learned a lot. I mean, they were so helpful. We had such a good experience over there, you know, in Busan. There was a couple of things, but I mean, if you look at it, I was really proud at how open that the catchers were to willing to learn, and especially, you know, coming into a new year and having a short spring training, and with all the stuff going on with COVID over the past couple of years. So I was really fortunate to have guys that really worked hard and were willing to be open about it. But really, I think it just kind of came as far as like the mental aspect of it, of just not having, you know, as catchers, we have anxiety, especially behind the plate, because it feels like a lot of people are kind of staring at you all at once. And then you also have the factor of 8 other position players are staring at you the whole time. You know, everyone else kind of has other people behind their back when they're playing on the field, but you got 8 guys. So your demeanor and how you present yourself on the field factors into a lot of things. And then also just being able to help with the technical stuff of receiving and blocking, and just being able to have a consistency every single day with that, I think helped out a lot. Yeah, so the biggest focus was that I didn't want to get into the heads of feeling like we have to block 100 times or we have to like catch for 30 minutes or something. I think more of the focus was, how can we try to train game speed or have it to where, you know, you're actually kind of running your mind through game situations to where now when we go into the game, it feels like practice, to where you're not training and practicing at a slow pace or at a different pace. And then when we get into the game, all of a sudden things start speeding up on us. So mentally, we would try to train to at least somehow find a way to where in the game, they can kind of slow their mind down and feel comfortable behind the plate. Mechanically, there was a couple of things. I mean, you watch a lot of the catchers here, everything's about trying to funnel things back through the zone. And you know, there are certain things where, like, now as I talk to the catchers, I understand why they were doing certain things. I know the glove sound is like a big deal for a lot of pitchers, and they want to hear the glove pop. So I guess for a lot of catchers, they tend to try to kind of stab out and kind of, because they want to make the glove sound and they want to make that pop as loud as possible. But, you know, for me, if you really want to help out a pitcher, you got to steal strike for him. So I think that was one of the techniques. And that took a lot of patience on my part as well too, because I can't go in there and just all of a sudden just tell people to make 100 different changes. You got to kind of build a relationship with the players, understand where they're coming from, why they're doing a certain thing, and then from there try to mesh with them and then try to help them. Yeah, they were really open. I mean, you watch, I mean, all the catchers there. I don't think I had one catcher there that wasn't really willing to learn. So I was very fortunate to have a lot of guys there that worked hard. And, you know, each person, I think especially at the catching position, whether it's in the KBO or in MLB, catching always takes the longest to develop. It's just for some reason, that's just how it is. Whether a guy gets drafted out of high school or a guy gets drafted out of college, it takes a while compared to the other aging curves of like infielders, pitchers, and outfielders. So you have to be patient with a lot of these guys. You have to understand that it's a tough position. It's mentally tough. It's physically demanding on a player. So you got to give them the patience to try to slowly develop and give them that time to really try to just, you know, kind of come into their own. I think the setups. I think their stances and the setups a little bit. I think, you know, I think now you're starting to see a little bit more progression with the stances of the catchers there. But I mean, you watch all of them. Their hand movements. It's really no different than here. So I think just working on stances. I think the biggest thing is probably the pitch calling. The pitch calling is really the biggest difference as far as like, because you have a different style of hitters compared to here and there. So it's like understanding which veteran hitters are, what kind of rookie hitters that you have. So I think that was kind of the biggest difference. Juntae, I miss you. I know you're on a different team. You know, Juntae was like really one of the first. I mean, him, Jishi, and Bogan were kind of the first guys in my first spring training. Obviously, you know, Taeyul, Jungyul, all these guys, they were memorable. But for some reason, Juntae, for me, it was just like getting to work with him and him being like really shy a little bit in the beginning, and then getting to build a relationship he'll always kind of be the most memorable one for me. I cacaoed him a little bit. I haven't talked to him like recently, but I know like even after he got traded, I would kind of, you know, obviously with my translator Junlei, he would help me out. But yeah, so I would try to at least keep in touch with him. I really liked Gangnam. Yeah. Yeah, Yu Gangnam, he was, and I would actually talk, I would go up to him and I'd be like, I really like the way you frame. And for me, pitch framing, it's a big important thing. And you watch in the KBO now, like people are starting to grade pitch framers. And that's how MLB was about, a couple years ago. Now, all of a sudden, like that's really weighted for a lot of catchers. So watching Yu Gangnam, he's got one of the better hands I've seen as far as a pitch framer, and his positions when he catches behind the plate are very, like his body movement and everything is just, it's really impressive. And from there, I always took pride in it, but then I started studying. We always call it somebody has to rip the jersey off of you to tell you this. I actually miss him a lot. Now looking back on it, truthfully, I would love to go back.